Hit go live. There it is.
Here we are.
Hey.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. Welcome to PMA Session with Punk Rock Saves Lives. What is today? The 26th of August. Holy crap! Where has this year gone? Even through COVID, it's still. I guess being at home makes time fly too. But it's an amazing week. There's a lot going on in the world, and there's a lot to keep your spirits down. We're going to try to go through some stuff and some stories to help keep that positive mental attitude up high. As usual, I'm Rob. I'm your host every week, except last week because I was flying to the funeral. Oh. Miss Mackenzie loved me handled it last week. It was I got to watch a little bit of it on my layover in Chicago, nonetheless. Yes, I had, and Mackenzie, I think you said it. I can't believe you have this talk playing over a speaker in a airport. And
yeah.
we had
got some weird looks.
Yeah, we had a sexpert on last week about how sex is healthy and healthy ways to go through things and not being ashamed of it and all that. And yes, I was sitting there and I kept turning the volume down. But I ducked in just to tell everybody I loved them. So I technically didn't miss one, but I did. And Mackenzie, I don't need to be here every week, but I like it.
Does this mean we're even now? Because I didn't do the first one, and then I didn't do the one 2 weeks ago, but now you've missed two that I've headed, so I think we're even.
No, I was on the one that you headed. I just thought that you had had the super positive woman one better than me.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, you were there, but
he was there in spirit.
It was good. Just to introduce everybody that's here, and we normally do. Above me on my screen, if I'm wrong on yours, I'm sorry, but Mackenzie, our co-host every week in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and our punk rock woman expert. And how is everything in Albuquerque this week? Any progress on the craziness?
I mean, not a lot of progress. Things are things. I don't know if I didn't get to talk about it a lot last week. For those of you who aren't aware, a dear friend of mine was shot by police officers 2 weeks ago yesterday. So we're just waiting on the APD to do their internal investigation before we get any of their information and can move forward. So it's been somber, but it's beautiful to watch the community come together. We're raising a bunch of money for the charities that he likes to donate to.
And I know you did a GoFundMe for his kid, and that looks like it's gone incredibly great.
Yeah, it's popping off. It did better than we could have ever imagined, and so his son actually does want to donate a lot of that money to the charities that can support it and all that too. So it'll be it's been good to see all the love come together, but it's one of those things that I don't know if I'll ever not be angry anymore.
Yeah, I was really blown away by the story, and I am very interested to see what actually comes forth. And based on what I knew of your friend just through you, I would doubt that he ever fired his gun, but that's what is being thrown his way. And I don't know if we'll ever know the truth, but we will be positive that maybe light will come through this.
I mean, the videos that we do have, the security footage that we have from the hi.
I like it.
It's my kid's bedtime, so.
Oh, that's awesome.
Good night, kids. I love you.
Hi.
That's only two of the three, so those twins right there, and then there's one more.
But yeah, the security footage that we have from people's doorbell cams and whatnot kind of proves that he didn't. So, but APD is continuing to say whatever they want to say. So after they do their investigation and they give us their footage, it'll be interesting to see all the videos next to each other and whether or not it's been doctored and all of that. So we're in for a ride. We're kind of hoping they mess with it because that gives us a better case. But
well, we'll all be following, and we'll be doing anything we can to help, drawing attention as usual, and all sorts of stuff like that.
Need to end
my diagonal top is Mr. Dan Falkenthal. He's with us almost every week. He has to drop out every once in a while. How's things outside of Chicago there this week there, Dan?
Not too bad, actually. I think everything's been, as far as I can tell, news-wise, been a little bit better. Could be wrong, but it's, I'm trying to do half and half with my own, with the news lately, trying to stay away. Kind of just going back and forth on a few days, but as far as I can tell, everything's been going well.
I think somebody's working in my alley and my dogs are going nuts. So I'm sorry. It is National Dog Day, so they're making their
True.
They're making their
Is it? Did I miss it? It is.
It is, yes. So where is your young man sitting there with you?
He is sitting right here.
There he is.
He's sitting right here.
Woo!
Say
It's a
hi.
good dog.
He usually makes an appearance. And it's good to see. And
Yeah.
Tina just came out of the house to try to see if she could make him be a little more quiet. It's my amazing honor to bring on somebody that I've admired from afar for a long time, and we both had a conversation. We were on the same podcast a few weeks back. I started to say the wrong podcast.
Punk normal activity.
Yeah, there you go. Paranormal Activity. For some reason, Pennsylvania was stuck in my head, but that's a great one too. So,
Oh boy.
look,
Hi.
it's all the kids.
Good night. Love you. Good night, sweetie.
I love you, night, Daddy. Night, night.
Good night.
Night. Night.
To finish, I love it, man. That's what. When I posted about tonight, one of the big things I put was father, and there's
Right.
that's so cool. You may know him from the Bollweevils, an amazing punk band from Chicago that have toured the world, done it all. Also, he's a doctor, ladies and gentlemen, and standing on the front lines against COVID and against all sorts of stuff. He's a father. He's an activist. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Daryl Wilson, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm actually very good. It was the day started a little off. Typically I try to be pretty upbeat about stuff. I'm pretty accepting that you accept your fate. It's Amor Fati. You have to accept your fate and love it. And today was kind of a little off start because of the whole incident that happened yesterday in Kenosha. Just it kind of threw the day off a bit, but the realization that you have to still be around to be up to teach those, 3 wonderful human beings that I have to teach them how to kind of have a positive view of things and not look at things negatively. That kind of made the day turn around in another way. Initially I was just feeling kind of a funk, which is not typical. But then I had this coming on today, so I had this to look forward to as well. In the end, it's like, the days can't be bad. You can't value judge the day, based upon all the stuff happening around you. You just have to make the value like, how do I feel about me and what I can contribute to the rest of the day. So you got to stay upbeat. That's what you have to do. You have to look at it and go, hey, this stuff's happened. What do I use it for? It's some fuel that I can use to do something else more positive and continue to move in a direction which is forward instead of going backwards. So, things are pretty good. I wish there was, outlets like to play right now and to do that stuff. But, we still got all of our, but I had a meet with the guys in the band a couple days ago online, which was fun, just to talk to those knuckleheads. And, just have some, laughs and at the expense of each other, which is always a good thing to make you feel a little better too, because you can just laugh at something. Everything's been good. I can't complain. If I did, it falls on deaf ears, there's no reason to do it. It's a waste of energy,
And that is what we consider the perfect definition of PMA and what this is all about. So
right.
The stuff coming out of Kenosha is insane. It stays to the point that we've been saying repeatedly is that we, especially with BLM, we need to keep our foot on the gas, ladies and gentlemen. There's so much that we can still bring to light and hopefully start chipping away at the instant thought that someone someone black that gets in an argument isn't going to kill somebody. It's not people argue. I mean, it's not right that you can have a shouting match, yet if you're of a black skin, a shouting match might mean, turn the cops completely against you. And that's,
Well, the things that also get kind of thrown about, which is always just disparaging, is that, you have value judgments once again made based upon, past transgressions that may have occurred. And, those past transgressions don't allow individuals to, make a judgment, then be, executioner as well, in some sense, to put that kind of, judgment on you. That's why there's law. That's why there is the justice system that is supposed to work in a way that is fair. I mean, that's why they have the scales of justice to look at fairness. And, when that doesn't occur, that definitely leads to, this incongruent sense of how you feel about your place. If suddenly you are meant to believe that you won't have equal justice, applied to you in some way. The level of distrust that comes out of anything is almost, it feels insurmountable. But the reality is that, people are by our, I guess you could look at it in a negative way and think, you know what, we as human beings are innately violent. And if you think about it, it's like the violent part is just surviving. We have to survive against a harsh environment. So you have to sometimes be a little, aggressive and bold. You have to reach for that, last fruit that's there, and it might be hanging over a precipice, or you've got to, attack that, that animal if you eat meat, to get that kind of fuel to fuel your body if you think you need to eat that. But when you get to a point where you're not just surviving, you can look at solutions to problems that don't involve an action that has to be violent, right? I mean, that's the reality. When we get to a point where we're no longer feeling like there's a mode that you're in that says, I only need to make it because I need to survive this moment to the next moment. When you're in a civilized society, that allows higher thought to come into play that can allow solutions to problems to be more complex than the, almost instinctive reaction to lash out and destroy something. If there's an obstacle in your way, just destroy it. How about the obstacle could become something that is a useful, structure, or there's a tool that can be used to fix the problem versus some, violent eruption. We're advanced creatures. We have brains that are advanced. We use tools. So we have to start using our brains and the tools that we have to, start implementing solutions to problems. And being negative about it only leads to, despair and, the inability to find the energy to start moving in a direction to fix a problem. And I think there's a lot of negativity out there, unfortunately, that keeps on getting pushed. We have this, almost pandemic, not to speak of the pandemic that's out there, but this other, pandemic which is out there, which is the ability for people to grab one of these things and suddenly think they have all the information at their fingertips, yet our brains haven't advanced enough to filter it in a proper way so we can go, maybe that's not real. Maybe that's not, valid. And it's like we've lost that sense of the ability for us to filter all of the filth that comes through to find the real, base of what we should be using to move in a direction that's forward once again. We've got to start really either one, taking massive breaks from social media, massive breaks away from electronic, inputs coming into our heads, or find a way to be a little more savvy in taking those inputs and maybe filtering them and going, this seems a little goofy. If I'm being, emotionally charged by this, why is that happening? And can I suddenly go back and think for a second and go, maybe I shouldn't be emotionally charged by this. Maybe I should look at this rationally and say, okay, how do I fix this problem? It goes back to those days when, you suddenly, if I in a day of being in the hospital reacted at an emotional level to every problem that occurred, I wouldn't make it through a day, and I wouldn't be able to take care of a multitude of people. And if everything that does hit you that is emotional, you take in and you turn it into a negative, it's also going to inhibit your movement forward. It's like an anchor that holds you down, and it doesn't allow the boat to go anywhere that it needs to go to. It's like you're just stopped. And I think everybody's feeling weighed down right now. And they have to find a way to like lift the anchor so they can start floating to paradise, in some sense.
I kind of want to add something. You're talking about tools and civilization, and this is alongside that, and it actually made me feel really good when I found it earlier this week. I didn't do any fact checking on this, so I'm just like putting that out there, but it was a beautiful thing to read. Apparently years ago, it doesn't tell me when, there's an anthropologist named Margaret Mead, who, her theory and the way she talked about civilization, like
the femur that was broken. Yes.
Yeah, and it was really beautiful. So essentially, this woman, she says, we've put the base of civilization at when we started discovering tools being made to problem solve. But this woman is claiming that she believes the beginning of civilization was from the time that they found a femur that had been broken and healed, which meant that somebody had taken the time to take care of and protect somebody who was incapacitated. And that's what, for me, that's really beautiful. And that's what I've been trying to carry through my week, is how we hold each other up, and that's how we should be measuring our civility.
Right. I mean, that's the whole point. You have to be civil to other human beings. If you're not, we're going to fail as a species. We have no other place to go right now. We all have to live on this planet, and this planet has to sustain us, which means we have to have some certain basic things to allow human beings to survive. We have to have, oxygen that we can all breathe in. So we have to have clean air and water, because our cells require that to function. We have to have, food that we can actually attain, which is a good fuel. We can't put bad fuel into a vehicle and have it work. So we put bad fuel into our bodies. It's only going to lead us to break down a lot faster. So we have to have these basic tenets to allow us to just function as organisms. But then you have to find ways to efficiently get that stuff so that we can all work together to stay, moving in a forward direction, right? If we suddenly have individuals that are trying to counter that in some sense, that to me, as I've said in some other podcasts, is the definition of evil. You are doing things that are counter to the survival of our species. We are all human beings, and to survive, we have to work together, because the environment could be harsh enough. Yeah. We found ways to actually live in harsh environments. We found ways to do that. We found ways to mass produce food, which sometimes isn't the greatest, because some of that food's not that good for you. Yeah. But to really look at how we are going to then, we can't be, stuck here on our small little, planet. We might have to go to other places and find ways to survive there as a species as well, to expand our role in the universe. You start thinking about the that we're so small. I mean, we're just these infantile little specks of matter that are out there, but we are not when we actually interact with another human being. We're like, one of the most important interactions can be a positive interaction between you and that other person. Because if they rely upon you to care for them at a time when they are down, or if you are down, that's the only person that can do that at that point. If you're incapacitated, we all want to care for ourselves, but human interaction is the only way that humans can survive, is that we actually look out for each other. Otherwise, we're going to be gone.
And the way that humans survive, I think people discount this. We all feel like we're independent in sort of a narcissistic way, but the ways in which we have developed survival, as in living in harsh environments where food doesn't grow. Plenty of people live places that you can't farm your food. There are other people out there farming the food that you need to survive, building the houses that you need to live in, cleaning the air, planting the trees. It is a literal community effort, like for the entire population. No one is out there just doing this on their own. So it kind of comes down to, we need to be able to trust each other and the systems we have in place and hold each other up, because without people, we are nothing. Every single one of us. And that's the Joe Strummer brand that we all come from.
Right. And you think that, the natural inclination is that it's just not, it shouldn't be in our nature to destroy, another human being while they're trying to come up. I mean, yeah, you can start saying that maybe genetically you look at it and say your genes want to survive, so it's competition and you're trying to now, push on to make sure that nobody else can compete against you. But we've grown from, like I said, we're not just surviving.
Yeah.
We're thriving as, a species, as we should, and we should continue to thrive as long as we've learned to work in conjunction with our fellow human beings. That we have to say, I looking out for you as my sister, you as my brother, you as, I'm looking out for you, because if I look out for you, you look out for me. We're pack animals. It's shown. I mean, look at the mental health issues now that people can't socialize. We know this. We've seen this before, where lack of socialization leads to just complete utter despair and failure of health. I mean, it just all around. It's not natural for us to not congregate together as human beings. That's our natural inclination. So to try and, break us apart, it's so unnatural for that to occur. And that's why it feels so, ugh. And instead, when you have the ability to commune together and talk about things, and even if you disagree, I mean, it's a matter of, can you be with another human being to have that stimulation for your brain, to make more neurons connect and to advance again as human beings together. We've lost that. I think not to harp on, electronic things. If it was through the electronic things, we wouldn't have this meeting right now. I love electronic things, but it's kind of the anti-personal things that can occur because of the distance between people through a screen, that it's just not real. You're in this virtual space that you can say, be, attain almost anything you want. But it's not real. The reality of how people interact has become so, strange when people do have to look people in the eye and say, hey, or, shake a hand. And we can't do that anymore because, for COVID. But, the ability for us to interact as human beings is so important for our health in general. And like I said, for the health of us as a species. And that's, I think, coming to light right now because of, our inability to get together because of, COVID-19. And it's having deleterious effects on us as a planet, just as a planet.
I kind of feel like a sponge. I'm sorry to be so quiet this week. But I feel like the first time I read Dr. Graffin's Anarchy Evolution. This is that same kind of idea and so much thought, and it's beautiful to listen to. But I do want to, my thought as we've been talking about this and the electronics and the being together and stuff like that is going back to our Native Americans and oral tradition. Mm-hmm. And it seems like with electronics that we're losing that more than ever. And we don't have stories that we pass to our families directly or to our community directly anymore. It's all every snippet online, and it's not going to add up to the oral traditions and stories. And that worries me. I think that's an integral part of, just I'm one of the older punks. I can tell you about going to see a band at 14, 15 years old, and I can tell you the story around how we got there, what we had for dinner, and how we enjoyed the show, and Henry Rollins kicked me away from a pinball machine or something like that. Is that stuff going away with, oh, hey, I saw Black Flag at show tonight, and that was it. And that's,
right.
And a picture.
Right. And the evidence is the picture, or if you didn't film it, it didn't happen. It's like, some of those things become stories as we, as older punks, have these legendary things that have happened. And as the stories change over time, you're like, remember that time when, we see Fishbone, and then, it's like came jumping off the top of the balcony at the Metro. That happened. And some people, I don't believe that happened. Like, no. Angelo jumped off the top he came off the balcony. He came off of it, and that happened. It's like, no, that wouldn't happen. Dude, I was there, and that happened. So those are things that, you get like really jazzed about. We start to get those goosebumps because when you were there, it happened. And then you go back and visit like venues. Like you go and visit places, like we played the Shelter. We were in Detroit, we played the Shelter. And I remember going there as a kid and seeing bands there. And it seemed like, man, the place was monstrously huge and and it was big enough. And I'm like, it seemed bigger when I was, the stories you talk about, this happened there. And then it was, so, the oral tradition of telling stories, it's still there, but the problem that happens too is that, the story could get altered in some way by either somebody altering it by doing some, deep fake on it, or the story is going to be always what it is because you can't ever embellish it and make it into that, tall tale of punk rock that, you had from back in the, 80s and 90s.
Also, there's something really beautiful about access to information, but then when you can access any story or information you want, everything else starts to kind of feel more minimal than, you tell a story and everyone's like, oh, that's really similar to something else that I've heard, or that you hear so many stories now that it's just like, there's nothing, not nothing, but things easily become less and less exciting sometimes.
Right. And I think the part of it, you have to make them exciting in your own way. There's a lot of, visual storytellers out there that tell these beautiful stories and tell like amazing things that you see in the way that they can use technology to make things really, really cool, or to capture events where you think that's not been reported. And you're like, wow, now I'm seeing this event in real time, or I'm seeing, somebody change, or the ability for people to get messages out in a way to broader audiences, which is really, really cool. It's a lot of times you go back to the nostalgia of like, oh man, back in the day, there were only so many bands you could see, and you go to this show, and you remember those venues we used to go to, and man, it was just like you had a battle to get to the front, and then you're like in a pit. Remember those? Yeah. And then you're like, yeah, I remember those days. It was like, you had a lot of choices that may have been limited to you. That some people had no access to even seeing this stuff or becoming a band because they didn't have access to going into the recording studio or anything else. Now you can record everything at home. You can do all these things and get your music out and have your art expressed and have other people have access to it. So it is a double-edged sword. You can wield it and say I'm cutting through all the crap, but then you can also say, oh, it's cutting down all the good stuff too. You don't want to cut out all the amazing things at the same time. And it's just adapting too. I mean, we everybody has their their moment where they go, it was better back when I did it. It's like, was it though? I mean, it might have been actually more difficult. It's like it's kind of crappy when you did it that way. It's like, remember, look at those recordings you did, and look how they sound. It's like you could have made this way better on my phone. It's like, oh crap, you're right. This sounds way better. This 8-track thing we did was so crazy as we looped everything down as we kept dropping tracks down over time.
Yeah, we did that. I found a tape we made in '93, a cassette tape, and I had to hunt a player down, and I'm like, wow, I don't remember it being this muffled.
Right? It was so loud, moving. Everything was it was so great, man. It was recorded. This is the best thing. So you're listening to it, and you're just happy that it's recorded.
Yeah.
And you're like, this sounds great. And you're like, maybe you should be a little more, nitpicky about. No, it's done, man. It sounds the way we sound. We sound that way. It's like, you sound that bad? We sound that bad. It's like, really,
That's
Well, also talk about, like when there's a huge difference between access to the tools and equipment are different than talent with that, So
yes.
now when you give everyone access to those tools or that equipment, you get to see like what people can really, really do. When back in the day, before you could literally record and mix an entire song in your bedroom, you were limited to just who had that equipment, and they were talented because they owned the equipment.
Right.
But now it's, what can you do?
It's
Right.
pretty crazy. Finding that tape was pretty cool because it was the only thing I have ever found of me recorded. There's a tape of Jigsaw somewhere, and I have lost it over the years. And if anybody has one, please let me know. And I've asked the rest of the guys in the band over the years, and nobody seems to have it anymore. But I found the one I found was uncalled for. It was the last official band I was in before These Roving Years, our new thing. But it's 3 songs, and it was 3 songs, and we were very proud of them. But listening to it all muffled now is pretty funny. I wish we would have had the fact that you could garage band it on your phone and make it, sound beautiful and throw it out there forever on the internet.
Right.
But
Right.
I think
speaking
our
of,
supporters deserve to hear it just as it is, and we need to do that ASAP.
I agree.
I gotta find
agree
it.
with that.
It's in a footstool, one of those hollow footstools in the house. I literally came across it and went, holy cow, so, but
As long as you're proud of it, that's what matters.
I scream
Right.
a lot. It was that 93 Mike Patton wanna scream kind of thing, and there's a lot of that going on. And I don't think you can not look up to somebody like Mike Patton. He's
Right.
an incredible musician, but I'm not. No, I'm just kidding. But
No, never disparage yourself. This is positive stuff, man.
but
Don't do
I
that.
laugh. I can disparage myself and know I'm playing. And that's where. Speaking of that, just playing around. I said it last week, and I'm hoping. Well, it might have been the week before, but I'm hoping April is getting those drum tracks laid down soon. We're doing These Roving Years with Adam from The Faction.
Nice.
Adam's the guitar player. Todd Daigle from Pride Bowl and a couple of others
Nice.
is on bass, and April Shumpman from Sniper 66 on drums.
Nice.
We're having to do it long distance recording now, whereas we were going to get together and do it. We've practiced a couple of times, but now Adam's laid down all the tracks roughly. He even did a rough version of my vocal, and we're all just getting them in our heads. And when April lays down the drums, they're going to send them up here, and Adam and Todd are going to get together and put down the stuff. And then Adam's going to produce me on vocals, and we'll have something in the world. It's kind of a fun, uplifting thing.
That's good. Music's a positive, man.
Are we getting some good comments out there, Dan? I don't get to see them when I'm on my phone, so.
A little bit earlier I like this one. Stuff like this is what makes punk or any experience so special.
That's very
Nice.
true. It's now to pivot a little. I mean, let's go into a little bit of history with you, Daryl. When did the Bollweevils officially form? When did y'all? I know it's been a while, but
Yeah, it was 89, so 1989. So it was that old story I've always told. It's the same old story, and it lives in legend because it wasn't recorded. But what happened is, I moved to Chicago, Chicagoland area, and I started learning about the punk scene here because I was from Michigan initially. Started going to see Naked Ray Gun shows back in the day, like back in 87, 88.
Yep.
And, going to the shows, it was me in the front with, the guys who would become the rest of the band. It was my Ken, who's our guitar player still to this day, the oldest member of the band, Bob, who was a bass player. And then, we'd all be in the front surviving in the front, the Skinhead Wall of Death and everything else that was going on at shows back in the day. And they handed me a tape, and I was like, what's this? I said, it's a tape. We want you to sing for our band. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I'll try that. And it was because they saw me singing along with Naked Reagan, so I could actually sing a little bit, at the time, and scream in harmony. And then I listened to the tape, learned the songs, and went to the first practice, and we wrote some songs then, and the Bollweevils were born. They played a show beforehand, at this place called Club Stadola, this club in Chicago on the Northwest Side. It's like near where my wife used to live. So they played the show, Bob sang, and after that, they became a 4-piece with me just singing. And we played our first show with me, was opening for Naked Raygun at the Metro, which was crazy. It's like
Beautiful.
So yeah, it's like I didn't, it was one of those surreal things where we're at practice and we're, getting ready and playing some songs, playing, what we're doing. And it's like, yeah, we got a show coming up. I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm glad we got a show finally. Yeah, we're gonna be opening up for Naked Raygun at the Metro. I'm like, what? A bunch of liars. You guys are just a bunch of liars. Why would you say this and make my heart feel like it's going to sink? Because no, it's true. And it was like a chance thing where, Ken had written into, their manager, who was Jeff Bozati's wife at the time, Karen. And he said, yeah, send our tape and we'll let you guys open. So we opened up and it was amazing. That was my first show singing in front of people on the stage at the venue, of course, which is the Mecca of all places, the Metro.
Favorite ever.
And so we get up there, we played, opened up, and I just went for it, man. It was great. It was amazing. And afterwards, Pierre Kesney comes in. I just talked to him the other day on the phone. Great. I love him. And he's a wonderful human being. And Pierre was like, came out backstage, was like asking, do you guys have another tape? I can have a tape. You guys are amazing. I'm like, Pierre Kesney saying we're amazing. Oh my God. So I'm losing my mind, just having palpitations. I think I'm going to faint, it's just all that. And we went from playing at the Metro, our first show, to, of course, hey, that's a taste of what you could get if you keep on doing this, to, hey, guess who you're going to play now? Hey, how about that VFW hall, that basement show, all those other things that you have to do, and that's what you do. And so once you taste what the Metro feels like, you're like, oh, we're going to get that. I want that. I mean, my initial goal was just to go and have dinner at the house of, my idols in Naked Raygun, which we got to do that. And that's like, I thought, man, I've reached it, man. I got to hang out with my idols. But we kept on playing and playing. And we, played, and initially we're on a local label here, Underdog Records, way back in the day. And released, of course, our first 7-inch Ripple, or our first 7-inch was the Bollweevils, About You, what is it? Lost and Found 7-inch, and it was we just kept moving from there. And we played on well, I'll get to Dr. Strange in a minute, but we played here in Chicago, and we were ready to put out a full length, but Underdog wasn't ready to do it. And so they were going to put out the Smoking Popes record. And so we said, hey, we were looking around for something else. And Harlan from Rhythm Collision had sent something to his girlfriend, had seen Ken had a Rhythm Collision sticker on the back of his car, and had said, hey, you like Rhythm Collision? My boyfriend plays in this band. And oh, cool. So we got hooked up with Rhythm Collision, and we kind of had a similar sound, and was like, hey, this is cool. And that got us hooked up with Dr. Strange. And so, Bill heard our stuff, and we got on Dr. Strange. And of course, that was the big, rift in, Chicago punks, like how you guys are a bunch of California bands. I'm like, no, we're a Chicago band. We just have to be on a California label. That's just how that goes, because they're putting our stuff out. But we're a Chicago band as Chicago bands come. And, we're on Dr. Strange, and that was where we just kind of just went from there, and then our fan base grew, exponentially as we, had a definite fan base in California. That was our home, away from home to play shows, going to play in Southern California, at the Showcase Theater back in the day, which was a great venue, great place to play. That place was amazing all the time. Every time it was a great show. and just being in, California playing around the nation that we go on tour. And, I had opportunities to go overseas early on, but couldn't do it because of my medical school. That my career coming out, to be a physician. So I couldn't, do some world tours at that time. We played until I had to start residency, which was kind of a killer for us, in the sense that we were in the middle of a tour and I had to leave, because I had to start residency. It's like, I've been studying all this time throughout college and then through medical school, I'm going to be a physician at some point. And residency started up and I had to leave in the middle of a tour to go start. I was on call the first day in the ICU and I'm like, I gotta go. And the guys, I wasn't forthcoming about me having to leave as much as I thought I was. So that kind of rubbed people pretty raw. They finished the rest of this tour that they had to do. And then they came back and played this big show in Chicago, in Elgin, actually, at this venue, the big show that was in Elgin. And I, of course, came out to play because they were home. I was ready. Wasn't working. So, of course, we're going to play. I was like, hey, the Bollweevils are back playing. And those guys were raw angry. They were like, how dare you not suffer through tour, not do this, and you're going to come back and get all this stuff? No, this is not going to work. And so they were plotting my demise at that point. I was like, Et Brute, how dare you? Caesar is back, how dare you? We played some shows at the Fireside, of course, the great venue of the Fireside Bowl. And there was a show, we were up on stage, and suddenly it was like, hey, this is our last show. And I'm like, what? I kind of surprised suddenly. I'm like, that's great that I found out while we're playing the show that this is our last show, the last song that we're playing. And I looked around at each other. We both all looked at each other and said, okay, I guess that's it. We're done. And we were done for a bit. Then years rolled on, and it was 2003, I think. We got back together to do a benefit show for a radio station in Chicago, WLUW at Loyola, to do this show at the Metro, which we had been banned from playing at the Metro for a long time because of that whole Weevil Live thing where we got into a fight with the bouncers because they were a little overzealous with some of the members of the crowd who, we didn't want to put up with that. Looking back on some of the video, I have to say, I watched some of the videos of shows we had there, and I think we were kind of asking for it in a way, to be quite honest. That we were not probably, we were complicit in allowing some stuff to go down, and we were maybe a little feeling ourselves like, I'm crazy. You can't, I'm gonna talk all kinds of crazy smack, and you're gonna hit me, That kind of happened in some shows to build up before that. And then we play the show and they're like, hey, we don't want any crazy shenanigans and, no stage diving, none of this stuff. I said, hey, as long as you don't kick people out, there'll be no shenanigans. Of course, shenanigans ensue and they start kicking people out. And then we start saying, you can't do this. We had a verbal contract and we're fighting. And then we get banned from there, most famously banned from there. And then the rumor had it that, this lives in infamy, the rumor had it that Pennywise was playing a show like the next day or something like that. And they told them, hey, we don't want any Bollweevils incidents occurring here, so you can't have any crap go down. I'm like, well, that lives in infamy. That's great. Our reputation precedes us. We're a bunch of, miscreants and morons. So we came back, though, to play a show at the Metro in 2003. And it was this benefit show. And, the funny thing is the bands that played with us, of course, wanted to rib us for our statement of we'd never play this place again. And they kept playing that over the, PA as we were coming out to play. It's like, yeah, we lied. So, we're a bunch of liars. So accept our lies. Our lies are only there to help you and entertain you. We're entertaining liars. Then 2003 was supposed to be a one-off show. We're supposed to not do anything else. And then 2006, we got asked to play, the third Riot Fest. And that's when Naked Raygun was coming back to play. And we were on that bill. And after that, it was like, this is too fun not to do. We were all more mature. We weren't having those petty squabbles. that happen with every band. You watch any band documentary, they all go, you could say, we've all done that. That's happened to us. Band documentary, this is the part where everybody's going to like break up the band. This is the part where somebody has a creative difference and they can't stand it and they want to punch everybody. Oh, this is the part on tour where somebody's going to fall down and almost die. This is the part, every band has that same documentary. You can just write it out as an outline and say, band documentary movie. Put any band name there and it all goes in this order. The youthful exuberance where you start off, and then the meteoric rise, then suddenly the skyrocketing to this greatness, and then you're having a great time. Then suddenly it's like the suspicion of every member of the band, and then it's something happened. So we were beyond that immaturity phase of our lives, and we were all able to realize that, hey, this is just fun. We should just do this, and we've been playing basically since 2006. Yeah, since that time. We changed some of the members, of course. The longest standing, members now are myself and Ken and our drummer Pete, who is amazing. He used to drum in the Four Squares, and he's an amazing drummer. And then our bass player, Pete Mittler, who played Naked Ray Gun, played Methadones. He's our pal. He was our roadie on our first tour. So driver roadie on our first tour. He never carried a single instrument or anything in his day. He did drive though. We did have some fun. So this is like I think the epitome of the lineup that we have is us. Us four, jokers, myself, Ken, Pete, and Pete, and it's just something that is so enjoyable. It brings so much, peace in my day in some sense. The ability to, jump around and release stress. It's just an amazing thing. And it's sad that, right now we're all of us who are, artists in our own way, have been kind of, sidelined because of COVID-19. And just trying to find these alternative ways to do things like, drive-in theaters and things like that, to try to find ways to do shows is something. And all of us who are creative people we're going to find a way to do these things, it's because we're creative. So we have to figure this all out, and it's in our blood. It's in our need to exist in that sense. But yeah, so we've been playing since 2006 in our new inception, wrote new songs. We had a 7-inch we got out in 2015, the Attack Scene 7-inch we brought out. We have some other songs that are in, the pipeline that we need to record. We kept getting sidelined from a whole bunch of stuff because of, our goofiness. And then of course you never plan a pandemic when you think you're going to record, and the pandemic hits, you're like, well, but kind of stopped us from doing some things. I've been pretty busy as a physician, so that kind of curtails some stuff in itself too. But yeah, I'm rambling on like an idiot. We've been playing for a while, it's like,
that's what we want.
Yeah.
It's also, you said this was the legend, the unrecorded legend, but now it'll be on the internet forever.
Right. It's like,
thanks for that gift.
Right. Thanks. I'm glad I could provide that, Kenzie. I forgot I could provide that.
Well, it kind of led us to a perfect segue, and that's a lot of people that, especially that aren't in the music industry or in the punk scene as much. We have followers already with Punk Rock Saves Lives that aren't really punk fans. They just like what we're doing and using the community. It's been really rad, and a lot of them know you from your viral video when you did the speech outside of your hospital. Yeah. And let's talk about that a little bit. That was incredibly powerful. And it you're talking about being a musician and then being a doctor. So we segued perfectly into the doctor part. So,
Rob, you know how to host a show, man. That's the thing. I mean, you do that, Rob. It's real good. Those transitions are sweet.
Let's syndicate this thing. No, I'm just
right, there you go. It was we had a white coat ceremony for Black Lives, and it was going on around all over the nation, and my hospital did that as well. And we wanted to kneel for 9 minutes that we had to do in honor of what happened, unfortunately to George Floyd. And, a colleague of mine had said, you should say something. And before we got there, I'm like, I'll say something, but I don't know. I didn't, feel like I needed to say something, but I did. Initially, the thing that was interesting is we were all going to kneel, but a lot of the physicians that were there initially didn't want to kneel in the heat, in the sun. And I initially chimed in and I said, no, all of us are going to kneel in the sun. You can stand to be uncomfortable for 9 minutes in the sun. There's a person who was kneeled on and died, and that's permanence. So 9 minutes of kneeling in the hot sun is not an inconvenience for you. And so people followed that lead. We went out and kneeled in the sun. And my colleague who told me to speak, she laid on the ground with her hands behind her back in a position of being prone. And it was very powerful. She was like laying right in front of me. And I was like, wow, that's, wow. And so after we were done, we all stood up and there was like this uncomfortable silence. It was really an uncomfortable silence that I don't think people knew what to do. And the space was empty. And that's when, my colleague Sangeeta, she said, you have to say something. So I did. And I spoke from, the heart, from my experience. And just, I know this, and that people don't always have the exact realization of what my experience may be. They've never had to ask. There's always assumptions that are made based upon, yes, they're my colleagues, I'm a physician with them, so they assume, well, as physicians, we all have the same experiences, and we do have many similar experiences. I definitely lead a life of privilege. I can't ever, discount that. But as I said in my speech, there's an understanding that I may have privilege and definitely have some, but there may be a limitation to that as well. And when I said that, I wasn't trying to disparage for people who go, well, I'd gladly take your life and be a physician. Okay, I get that. But if you actually took my life with my other colleagues who are physicians, who may be white physicians, and I said, let's switch lives, let's switch places. You can be me and I can be you. We have the same socioeconomic status. We are doing the same, thing here as emergency physicians, but be me. They wouldn't take that. They wouldn't take that. So there's always that understanding of the difference. When people want to talk about, hey, what's privilege and what happens with privilege? And somebody goes, well, yeah, I'd take your life, Daryl, in a heartbeat. I'm struggling to get by. No, let's take it and compare apples to apples and say two individuals with the same socioeconomic status who do the same job, who are, same profession, would just switch lives with me. And they go, no. Or just switch with one of my female colleagues, just switch with her. They would say no. So it's all these things that you have to look at the equation and have equity in it. And when people go, what about celebrities? You can't put celebrities in there at all. They're a whole different strata, and that's completely different. So let's take that out. We're talking about 99% of the human beings walking on the planet who are not, walking as these, deified individuals who shouldn't be deified in any way. I spoke upon, being prodded to talk about my experience so that people could really open their eyes to it, because they never had to do that. And when that happened, many eyes were opened pretty wide, because I'm a person that they look at every day, that they know as a friend, that they know as a colleague, that they know as a compatriot. They know me from experiencing me up firsthand. But then I pointed out the whole things that changed. Me wearing my scrubs and my gray coat and walking around with a stethoscope, of course, people recognize that there's a physician there. But of course, I'm a physician that has a different look. I've got these dreadlocks and I'm 6'4" and whatever. That in itself is, wow, that's a presence. But then some people might look at that and go, well, their inherent biases might say, you're not what a physician looks like in my brain. And you have to sometimes overcome that just by, when I walk in to care for a patient in the room, that their expectations of what a physician appears to be is very different. So that's I have to battle through that before I can even start caring for the patient in the way that I can. That's usually a pretty, it's a pretty quick, delay. It's not a delay. It's a pretty quick thing to break through in some senses. Sometimes it's not, because people's biases still kind of flood their brain. It's hard for them to comprehend this. Their wheels are spinning, and I see the smoke coming out of their ears. But I had to point out to my colleagues that they don't have that same thing to that same visage to have to break through to then start accomplishing something. What people see when they see me, I don't know if they see me first as physician, as man, as black man, as a punk rock guy, as whatever. I don't know that until they open their mouths, and I can then try to interpret what they're saying to me. So I had to point that out to people, because they don't always see that. They might not see me as a father. They might not see me as the doctor. They might not see me as the punk rock guy. They don't know all those things about me. All they see is this black guy who's there, right? And that's the first thing that they get, and then they make judgments based upon that. So I had to point out that no, I am all these things. I'm first and foremost, this doctor who happens to play in a punk rock band, who happens to be a father to 3 kids, a husband, I'm all those things that make me just a human being like you. I don't want people to ever not see my color. I want them to know that this is what doctors look like. So when they see other people of color, they can say, that can be a doctor, that can be an architect, that can be a lawyer, that could be a janitor, that could be this person. Hence why I keep the dreadlocks too. You can't make a judgment call based upon this. It's the brain underneath that matters. It's not the hair that's on top of that. I said that once in medical school too. I was scrubbing into a case, a neurosurgical case, when I was on the neurosurgical rotation, and the resident asked, "Where are you going to cut your hair, Wilson?" I'm like, I'm not going to cut my hair. There's no reason to. It's like, it's the hair. The hair doesn't make a difference. It's the brain. And this brain is pretty kicking. You can't stop this brain. And my attending laughed and said, that's true. So until it became, if this ever became an inhibitor to me taking care of patients, which it never has, it's always been a moniker to wear to say, you will remember me. And if you remember me and how I cared for you, and that I was this intelligent, guy who came in and made sure I was comforted and took care of my family, or took care of me, or took care of my kid, whoever, then you have to start hopefully opening your eyes to other possibilities of what people look like isn't what you're going to see. You have to get into here. You have to see what they're giving you, when they interact with you. So don't close your mind to this. An ER is a great place for that to happen, because I can't choose the patients I get. I have to be ultimately fair, because I take care of you regardless of your ability to pay. I don't care what your socioeconomic status is. I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what your political beliefs are. I don't care any of that stuff. I just have to take care of you as a human being to make sure that you are going to be okay. That's all I have to do.
That's what we want for all of us, though, in
right.
every walk of life.
Right. And that's the thing. So when people have to make judgments based upon appearance, it's like, well, that right there is totally false. The appearance that somebody has doesn't show what they really are. You can't judge a book by its cover, the most simple, trope that's been said forever. And it's so true. But right now, it's easy for people to make judgment calls on superficial things, because we don't want to take the time to think about and use the energy to expend to try and think through something that's more complex. It's sometimes painful to people to have to think about something. They just want to be able to just act. And it's like, no, if you thought for just a millisecond, then you wouldn't get into that trouble. If you thought for a millisecond, you wouldn't be, well, sometimes lack of thinking helps to keep me employed, by the way. So maybe a little bit of hold my beer moments might be okay. But, the reality is a little bit of, thought put into, an activity can lead to, a wealth of prevention for things. Preventing people making a judgment call based upon something that's not true. A prevention to stop an illness, prevention to stop them from having financial ruin or anything else. It just takes using this organ in our bodies that makes us so powerful, our brains, just using that.
That's such a beautiful, just rolling together of everything that we want to stand for. It's
Right.
like Mackenzie said earlier that and this came to play last week. It was Joe Strummer's birthday.
Yep.
And we did a post, and we subscribe to the Joe Strummer theory of punk, and that's to be a better human.
Mm-hmm.
And someone came on underneath and was posting some Joe Strummer memes, and he was like, Joe Strummer described Punk Rock Saves Lives 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And I'm like, well, I was the kid watching them,
Right.
and going, that's, I have been, in a non-religious way, blessed most of my life to get to see every band, and because of how I got wired into the music scene and everything, I've seen 90% of the bands that I ever wanted to see.
Right.
And I might have seen them.
Throw it in my face. I know.
No.
I'll never see the Clash, but you were cool enough.
No, that was not it at all. But
I know.
The big regret is I never got to see the Clash.
Yeah.
And I never got to see Joe Strummer and the Mescaleros. Somehow I should have in that time period, but somehow I didn't. Now I've been, lucky with my, working for Love, Hope, Strength for 10 years, and my relationship with Mike and the Alarm, that Smiley from the Mescaleros is the drummer of the Alarm now.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that's my closest connection to the Joe Strummer, is having Smiley sit in a pub in a little town in the middle of Wales and tell me Joe Strummer stories. And that was,
awesome.
That was my one super music regret, is I never got to see the Clash. I never got to see Joe Strummer. But
that's craziness. When you can only
find a few like that, you've lived a pretty cool life. And I'm lucky that we've gotten there, and we're seeing a lot of the new bands. This and all the years with Love, Hope, Strength, we've really put together using great bands and great musicians that we admire to do something good in the world, and we're shooting, to keep that going on a daily basis. And I gotta throw a little secret in. When I drove to Pittsburgh last week to give Tina the car, I listened to the Bollweevils about half of the way. And
nice.
if that's about a 24-hour drive. So
nice.
I think I heard the whole discography.
Nice. That's nice. You went through all the stuff, the crazy stuff. It
was fun. I did that, and then I did like a 3-hour period of listening to our new 6 songs over and over and over, trying to just drill in
into the brain.
Well, yeah, Adam took my lyrics, he fixed some of them, Adam, if you don't know, Adam wrote some of the best punk rock melodic songs of all time with The Faction.
Right.
I mean, think of Skate and Destroy. If you hear that, it stays in your head.
It's like I was talking about this the other day. There was this band when I was a kid, in Michigan called Boys on Skates, and I said they were kind of like a offshoot Faction. They were associated with skate band. I mean, because the Faction is like, that is what epitomizes me, is what skate rock is. That's skate punk right there. That is, you hear that and you hear just any bass line. It is that's what you skate to. That's what you were skating to back in the day. So that is totally.
That's Ray Stevens, and
he's just the way.
Ray Stevens plays those bass lines, and he's also Drunk Engines. He's also he was in. I think he's in half of the California State bands, and he's just the nicest guy in the world too, which just makes it even better, So, but it's a matter of just moving forward and listening and doing something with what we learned, and we're fighting to do that, and we're getting tied in with more people like you, Daryl, where we can get different stories, different views. I tried to get he wasn't sure he was going to be off work in time, and he does want to do this in a few weeks, but I thought it would be a rad contrast with you, and we tried to have Jay Navarro come on tonight.
Oh yeah, because Jay's my buddy. I love Jay. Jay's my boy, man.
He really wanted to come on, but he didn't. He's having to work some temporary jobs because of COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
Suicide Machine's got the new album that's
It's
unbelievable.
awesome. It is awesome.
And,
It's awesome.
but they can't go tour it, you know?
Right.
You know?
I mean, Jay is like one of the most positive, genuine, guys on the planet.
Yep.
He's straight up in the thick and always doing something to make the world better. I mean, that's the thing. He's an amazing human being. So,
his whole food not class thing that he really champions just
Yeah.
blows my mind. And we're still waiting for them to let us know. They had to get a new stove for that, and we offered to pay for the installation because they got somebody donated or bought them a really nice new stove.
Yeah.
But they needed a 220 power line to run it, and Punk Rock Saves Lives offered to pay for that installation, and we're still waiting on that. So that's the kind of things that we're trying to do, and using this conduit to bring you other nonprofits to site to help in other situations. With the Tattoo Artist Series shirts, we just sent the 3 tattoo artists $250 each just to help them.
Nice.
We never could figure out exactly how many shirts sold, and there were so many different combinations that we just rounded up to 250 and gave them all 250, no matter what they sold. So
right.
Nice. And we've got to send out the checks for the 4 local venues we did here. We got them each about $250 as well. So just to help their employees through some of this. We've got some great volunteers around the country that are trying to set up stuff in their towns and benefit their things and run it all through. We've hit 100 minute 6. I mean, hour 6, which used to go about an hour and 15. So let's start the closing out stuff. I want to do a couple of quick shout outs, and then I'm going to throw you under the bus like I do every week.
Excellent.
And, number 1, happy birthday. And you'll like this one, Daryl. Happy birthday, Jared of Counterpunch. It's
nice. I know it is. I said yes. Jared's birthday. It is.
He is
happy birthday, Jared.
Wonderful human. If you've been watching he lives on the outskirts of Chicago out with his awesome wife Amy, and they've jumped in and helped organize a bunch of the BLM marches out there and all sorts of amazing stuff. Jared, I love you, man. I hope you're doing well. Happy birthday.
Love those two. They're amazing couple. I love them. They're awesome.
They are great. The whole Counterpunch camp are just
they're all
they're
amazing. Yes.
And then there's that crazy Jim Margle, up there, and he's still up in Detroit, But the other thing is Chris Cleary, one of our advisory board members and a gentleman in Pittsburgh that has done a lot of my tattoos, and an honest, dear friend of mine, stood up to a racist in a parking lot 2 nights ago, and the racist was getting physical. Chris slapped him. He went down, and when he got up, the guy got up and shot Chris 3 times. Chris, miraculously, I don't know how to describe it other than just pure luck, the bullets did not hit any vital organs. He was hit 3 times. He is at home. He is recovering, but he is a business owner and a tattoo artist, and they didn't get any money. They don't get unemployment. They don't get stuff like that. So there's a couple of GoFundMes out there. There's some links on our page. If you want to donate directly to Chris, you can do it through Venmo and stuff like that, or you can do the GoFundMes just to help our friend get through this. He was doing the right thing. He was being the human we all want to be, and telling somebody that's unacceptable. And he took the bullets for it, for lack of better terms. We all take bullets in our own ways, but Chris really took bullets. And we want to think about Mackenzie's friend and hope that justice comes from that. We want to keep on the gas. That's been our big thing, and trying to tell everybody, keep your foot on the gas. Because look, there was a lot learned through the George Floyd and through everything. people are making strides. Believe it or not, there are being strides made, and it's a beautiful thing. There is, but it's also outing a lot of the negatives. And then we think we're making strides, and then another young black man gets shot in the back, for breaking up a fight, not causing a fight, not being in a fight, breaking up a fight, and walking away to check on his kids. That's unacceptable. I don't care what your politics are. You've got, it doesn't matter. We got to be better humans,
Yes.
And that's my push in the world. And besides my I love you thing, remember, it's okay to tell your male friends, your platonic friends. Look, I said it right, platonic, not plutonic. For some reason, when I was doing the first post, every time I would type platonic, it would autocorrect to plutonic. And I didn't even know it was doing it. And somebody, hey, Rob, I think you might have the wrong word. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even know it was doing it. I just,
I didn't have the heart to tell you because it always made me remember when they decided that Pluto wasn't a planet anymore, and I really missed it. So it's like, share your love for Pluto.
So it's okay to tell your friends you love them. We're really breaking that down. Somebody sent me a thing, a little like a cartoon today, saying men need emotional support too. And that's so true. And I'll probably repost that in a few days. We're still rocking on our Badass Women campaign. That's going to keep going. There's definitely a woman every day for the month of August, but that campaign will keep going. It might not be every day at the end of August, but we will be posting more people. So if you do still want to nominate somebody, we had a great one yesterday, nominated by the Colorado Punk Rock Army, a great group here in Denver that try to push positivity and punk rock going on in our scene. And they nominated a young lady that I know, and I completely agreed with it. And I went to her and I was like, Andy, I want to know what's okay in your story to put, because it's powerful and I don't want to out something. And she wrote up this great thing. If you saw it yesterday, if not, go back and check it out. They're in there.
Nice.
Today was another amazing nurse here in town, Liz south of Denver, but Liz, I always screw her last name up, Christopoulos, I think is correct. One of those amazing Greek names. So she's a nurse and on the front lines every day, just like Daryl, and they're Renee and all the amazing people involved with this charity that are in the medical field. So, all right, every week I throw you under the bus, and I know these two have had a little time to think about it, maybe, but
I don't even start to think about it until you say that.
What is an artist, a musician, a visual artist, anything, a book, anything that you've had in your life the last week or so that could help people have a more incredible coming week or future? We'll start with Mackenzie this week. What's been ringing your bell?
Oh man. Okay. It's a little bit different than the theme, but I've been honoring my friend Ken by listening to Motorhead almost constantly. Rest in peace, Lemmy. Rest in peace, Ken Reese. And fuck police brutality is kind of what I have to say. I'd also like to throw in a couple of things on that. Nothing about anybody, whether it's your criminal record or your skin color or anything, means that you should be killed by cops. That is not their job. That is not their job to make that decision. Anytime somebody is murdered by the cops, it is 99.9% of the time not what should have happened, no matter what led up to it, unless there was an actual direct threat to somebody else's life. That's just the bottom line. And I really, really needed to say that out loud today. I'd also like to say rest in peace to Riley Gale. He's a frontman of a band called Power Trip.
Yep.
We don't know what happened, but he has passed away, and that band was fucking awesome. So if you never got a chance to check them out, do that now.
They are pretty incredible, and they played here in Denver quite a bit. I've seen them. A lot of my Warped Tour family are a little messed up by that one, and especially my Texas friends. So
He was a really, really nice guy.
that's what I said. All right, Dan, what's been going on? What's giving you some positivity?
So actually, to keep on theme, which I don't think I've done once this month for Badass Punk Women, is a Canadian band called White Lung, a good punk band similar to How about that? I seriously just came across them a few weeks ago and fell in love, similar to Screaming Females, to give everybody an idea. But been blasting them nonstop now, and I highly recommend.
Rockin'.
They are so sick. Listen to White Lung. Everybody needs to listen to White Lung.
Mr. Daryl, anything been blowing you away? Any books? Any?
Well, I mean, for what's been I've been listening to, and I always have something that I put on before I had to work. So what I've been usually hitting up is, Fucked Up has been on rotation over and over again. Twice Born comes on before I walk into work every time. That's like, it gets me pumped up. Hands up if you think you're the only one. That definitely gets me pumped. And that's been going in my head over and over again. I've been listening to the new. What else have I listened to recently? I was listening to a bunch of Drug Church recently.
They are
a lot of Drug Church too. The new Strike Anywhere I've been listening to as well, which came through. When I work out, I'm listening to Sam I Am usually comes on when I'm working out, which is crazy. And the Descendants as well as Bad Religion. So music's always on for me. So those are my things that keep me motivated and keep me pumped. I'll listen to Suffer, or I'll listen to Milo Goes to College, and I'll listen to Sam I Am, and it's all that's been in. But like I said, I've been listening to a lot of Fucked Up as of late. And Drug Church has been in rotation pretty heavy right now too. And books, right now, what's the latest book that I'm reading? God, what is it? Nothing. No, I'm not reading anything that's been, earth-shattering. I haven't read anything earth-shattering. I've been reading comic books recently, which are not earth-shattering in any way, shape, or form.
When do you have time to read is my question.
It's like, it's articles that you read on, medical stuff, but from the standpoint of like sitting down and picking up a book, there's a bunch of books that are in my orbit that I want to get and start going through. It's like recently it's, what is the kid's book I wanted to read? God, I can't think of it now. I can't think of it books now. I'm losing my brain here. This is me losing my brain. But I've been reading like just articles on things right now. The big thing I've been reading on is the environmental effects on people's health, looking at specifically environmental impact for people of color and individuals who are, unfortunately on the lower strata of socioeconomic status, and realizing how environment has affected their health in such a negative way. And trying to change environment is super important. Trying to find ways to change policies to actually, once again, get those basic tenets of clean air, clean water, and access to food is super important. So that's kind of been my it's not a jam. It's kind of, that sounds so, just geeky of something to do. It's like,
I think it's a jam.
But listen to Fucked Up right now. That's what I've been doing into some Drug Church.
I brought up Damon's podcast a few weeks ago.
Yes, it's great.
Turned Out a Punk has gotten me across this country when I'm touring by myself. I know a lot of y'all know this, but when Punk Rock Saves Lives and Love, Hope, Strength and Predecessor, when we toured, I drive myself. I go with the tour, but it's usually just me in the camper, van, whatever. And so a lot of podcasts, and his not only is one of my favorite to listen to because of the music geek in me, and he puts me to shame on being a Punisher.
Yeah.
It's crazy. He knows so much about everybody's limited edition 7-inch that came out when they were 14-year-old band or 13-year-old kids in a band, and it just blows my mind what all he knows. And it's honestly, I'm lucky to get asked to be on quite a few podcasts. That's my dream. He hasn't asked me yet. I want to be on.
He's an amazing human being. He's an amazing human being. I was on there with him, and I love the guy. He's awesome. He's a big Bollweevils fan. He was like just geeked out, and it was like, man, and I'm a big fan of your band. It's like, this is craziness, and it was like just this whole big geek fest of crazy.
Yeah.
He's an amazing human being. And his brother's awesome too. I mean, they're just, he's awesome. I love him.
Well, if you're ever talking
yeah.
to him, tell him that he should sneak me in there and we can talk some good in the world.
Yes, Rob, yes.
Yeah. But what I want you to check out, there's some awesome ladies that are an offshoot somewhat of Mabel Syndrome, our friends that are doing their own. When we found out that Camp Anarchy was probably not going to happen, they decided they were going to have their own music festival and call it Camp Punksylvania. They have an amazing podcast out there just called Punksylvania, so check that out. It's funny because they're not all from Pennsylvania. The main lady that I know is actually from New York, but that's where they chose to keep it kind of near the thing, and they're taking band submissions for next year. They did follow proper protocol right now and canceled this year's.
Yep.
We are in big talks to have Punk Rock Saves Lives there in some kind of really cool capacity and do some good and get some stuff out there. So check that out. There's so many amazing, the Punk or Normal podcast that we were both on. There's so many podcasts that you can get different views. You can get different, soak it up, find your truth. That's what we were talking about earlier. If you do listen to something, you're not sure about it, study it.
Right.
I mean, I put out a post a few weeks ago, and I've seen other people put out the post. I'm not saying I originated it, but if you post something and your first words are "watch this video before they delete it," most likely I'm not going to watch it. That usually is the sign of a conspiracy theory or something. And if I do watch it, I'm not going to repost it unless I can go find out whether it's false or something like that. And it's just being a good human. You can listen to other sides, but make sure it's real. Make sure it's not. Right. It's easy right now to put something on the internet and just act like it's true.
Right.
It's not always true, guys. There's a lot of falsities. There's a lot of twisted belief. There's a lot of, and the person that put it up might fully believe it. And when I posted that thing about I'm probably not going to watch it, I had a friend from high school see that and think I was attacking her. And I honestly had nothing. I didn't even know she posted something.
It was a lot easier to build up these legendary stories back when we didn't have the internet, back in the 80s and 90s when we were at the punk shows. Like, do you remember that time that guy was on fire and jumped off the stage? Yeah. I swear to God, he threw baloney on people. I'm like, that did happen. That did happen.
The baloney, I unfortunately saw baloney flown a few times. Cheese slices too. It always seems like it was American cheese slices. But Daryl and I apparently come from about the same period of band. I just turned 50, Daryl, so I don't know.
I'll be 50 at the end of the year, so yes.
There we go.
I'm telling you, Robert. I'm telling you, walking the same line.
And then, like we've both said, I have no idea how we didn't know each other before this.
I know. It's crazy. The world gets smaller because of technology, and that's the good thing. It brings people together like this, which is actually the best thing about it.
And it was a gigantic honor to have you with us. Please keep taking care of people. Keep making fun and great music that gives us all an uplift. It's what it's really about. Thanks for sharing the truth and your story with us, because hopefully somebody watching got an eye opener. Oh, the one last shout out I forgot to do. Our buddy Richard Wilson that watches every week, who was unfortunately hit on his motorcycle in Vegas and lost his leg. Did go for his first prosthetic fitting today.
Awesome.
So
hell yeah, Rich.
He sent me a text earlier saying that they fit him for the sock and all of that. He'll go back for the molding and all in the next couple of weeks, and he hopes to be walking by next summer.
Excellent.
On his own. So positivity and light there, my brother. We love you. Like I said before, any doubts, any weirdness out there, I'm pretty sure you can get any of the four of us online pretty easily. I know my phone number is readily available online. So if you need someone, don't make any drastic decisions on your own. Call one of us. If we aren't in the way of working on it or answering properly, we can be the first step to get you to someone that can. We know a lot of great people and a lot of organizations and a lot of professionals that can answer questions for you. Remember, we love you. I love every one of you. It takes a lot to say that because we all have differences. But I love anybody and everybody that's willing to be a better human. Keep it up. And PMA to every one of you, positive mental attitude.
Awesome.
Well, Daryl, I would love to have you back sometime in the near future. I know it's tough with your schedule. It took us, 2 months to get
Yeah, it is. The schedule can be a little, overbearing sometimes.
But I would.
We'll just send you the link every week, and you just hop in if you want.
Yeah.
Just pop in, just like, hey, Daryl's here. Just walking in, I'll be like,
hey, Daryl popped up. Yeah.
just walk right in like Kramer from hey, here we go.
Yes,
I'm only an hour from you, so.
Right, see, there you go. There you go. I'll go to Dan's house. Just hang out there.
Yeah.
Right, I'm right in West Dundee, so I'm not far.
Wait. And,
just walk through the door that's right behind him. Just once in a while.
Just lurking with a mask on in the back, just lurking. It's like
apparently Dan has got his own new townhouse coming up, so Dan will be.
Yes, I'll be on McHenry. So.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But so yeah.
I'm stoked for Dan. He's got a new place. He's going to be doing. He'll be on his back porch soon doing this. And
yeah, I'm looking forward to
nice.
all of it. New beginning.
All right. Well,
Congratulations.
we're working on next week. We're working on next month. Talk to some amazing other musicians. Like we said, Jay Navarro, hopefully in the future. We've reached out to Greg Lee. Greg's on our advisory board, but getting a time with him and his kids and everything like this. Gregory Lee and Alec from Hepcat. We're working on having them come on and talk. One of the first bands I was ever a roadie for back in the 90s, Follow For Now, out of Atlanta, black rock band. Chris, the guitar player, and he's a bass player in Connor Christian and a couple other bands right now out of Atlanta, and a big activist trying to get him on in a few weeks. We reached out to Jimmy Hazel from 24/7 Spies, trying to bring you a whole slew of different opinions and different views and different ways to be positive and different experiences so that you can look at a person and never assume their experience because you've heard everybody else's experience.
Right.
So
awesome.
Pretty learning, pretty good stuff. I'm going to go eat some Thai food and get a good night's sleep since I gave the T cells out of my blood today. I'm pretty tired.
Love it. Good job.
It was a lucky thing. That's what I promoted with Love, Hope, Strength for 10 years. I traveled the world getting people to swab at concerts, to be on the bone marrow registry, and I described the process of donating T cells a million times, stem cells a million times. Well, because of the blood donation center here, I am a type 1 diabetic, so I am not eligible to donate to a person. But because I've been donating platelets to studies here in town through the blood center here, I got a last minute call this morning saying, hey, we need someone to donate T cells. And I was like, yep, let's go for it. And I finally can tell you what it felt like for real, what it's like to donate the T cells and the stem cells for persons with blood cancers. And it was exactly how I've described it.
Good.
The worst part about it was you feel cold.
Yes.
My lips and my nose felt like it vibrated a little bit. I guess that's the cycling, but
that's amazing that you do. That's awesome. That's the best thing about this. Is awesome.
It was pretty rad. So do something in your community. Do something good. Tell someone you love them. Tell your neighbor you love them. Go check on your neighbors, guys. I know we're trying to stay social distance, but a lot of people are locked in their houses, and it's just a simple, hey, how are you? Across the fence, or knock on their door and stand 6 feet back and just go, hey, I hadn't seen you in a few weeks. Thought I'd check on you. Do something. Do something that makes you feel better. It makes them feel better. Other than that, we'll see you next week, ladies and gentlemen.
Dan McKenzie, thank you very much. Rob, thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
One love, Hustle Punks.
Thank you, guys.